Well, after years of asking for more original films, I'm finally getting my wish in 2025. My theory is that because of the actors and writer strikes in 23, the sludge pipe that is Hollywood got capped off. And the smaller projects that were just gonna get shoved onto the shelf or given smaller releases got pushed to the fore to fill the gaps. And frankly, I'm great with that. So when I saw the trailer for Mickey 17, I was stoked. Weird concept, great director, and an off-the-wall actor really willing to give it his all. So how did we end up with this 3-star mishmash? Well, to start with, Mickey 17 stars Robert Pattinson as Mickey Barnes, a pathetic loser who signs up for a space colonization expedition to get out of some bad debts. But because he's useless, the only spot they have for him is as an expendable. As he says in the trailer, he really should have read the paperwork. Expendables are just that. They do the jobs nobody else wants and usually die horribly. But because they can't afford to waste able bodies on a trip like this, they have a backup plan where every time he dies, he gets uploaded into a new body like some kind of 3D printed flesh bag. But after a mission goes wrong, Mickey gets reprinted, only to find himself face to face with the last version of himself that was assumed dead. And the rules of the mission are clear. If that ever happens, all multiples must die. Thus sets up a fight for life, liberty, and questions about the nature of the soul. Oh, and there are fart jokes, puke jokes, giant pill bugs, and pushy political messages that are as subtle as a sledgehammer to the nuts. Now, to be fair, I haven't seen a lot of director Boon Jong Ho's other works, but from what I've seen in Snowpiercer and Parasite, his main through thread is class warfare. The haves abusing and using the have-nots. And Mickey 17 is right up that alley. Politicians, billionaires, and megachurch con men are all flayed with glee.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
And the lower classes are presented as individuals with various virtues and flaws. It's all pretty simplistic. Mark Ruffalo's Kenneth Marshall was obviously the director's avatar for Donald Trump and every other moron in DC. He's rich, word salads his speeches, and his acolytes wear red hats with white slogans. Is that too subtle? Anyway, then there's the symbol of the new Church of Earth being a rebranded swastika, the wave he gives being a Nazi salute, and him literally doing the devil's horn salute to a crowd was so on the nose my eyes rolled back until the optic nerve snapped from my skull. And Mark Ruffalo plays Marshall so stupid that you have to ask how this guy was entrusted as leader of the colonization of all mankind across the galaxy. Then again, I've seen people wearing adult diapers outside their pants who swear their favorite politician is chosen by God. So I guess anything can happen. Anything except Mark Ruffalo delivering a good performance in this film because it is awful on his part. He must have thought this was his chance to stick it to the orange man, but it's such a bad performance. It just makes him look like he has no idea what he's doing. Instead of over-the-top mockery, it's awkward and uncomfortable, and you can see the gears turning in his head as he tries to figure out his character in real time. And they really counted on Trump losing this last election to make the jokes work, because they mention numerous times how Marshall lost 2 elections because he's such an idiot. It's a one-note performance for a complete shell of a character. By contrast, Robert Pattinson's Mickey is a complex human being besieged by self-doubt and guilt who views his current lot as an expendable as punishment for past sins. And when Mickey's confronted with his other printed self, he does a good job playing out the disparate personalities. But I was reminded of a much better movie that examined these same themes. 2009's Moon, starring Sam Rockwell, had 2 men who were the same person, but with different personalities, dealing with questions of who is the real one and who deserves to live. But Moon was better in almost every conceivable way. In Moon, the camera had to be programmed to follow an exact track to make sure that as the characters maneuvered around the set, they could precisely have the same lighting and camera angles for every take. Rockwell had to memorize every take, every shift in both characters' performances, and react to it as though it was happening in real time. And the effect was seamless. I've never seen it done better. But Jong Ho either didn't have the time or the money or the skill because, well, every scene where Mickey is dealing with his counterpart is shot flat or they're only in frame for a few seconds together. And though Pattinson's acting is amazing, the filmography left me painfully aware that they were not occupying the same space at the same time. I was able to suspend disbelief enough to accept that there were two of them talking to each other, but the effect wasn't as strong as it could have been. And speaking of not as strong as it could have been, the script is a bit, shall we say, muddy. Even though there's some good character work that highlights Mickey's lot in life as a disposable weakling, it feels kind of first drafty. His best friend is a con man who constantly uses him and somehow makes Mickey grateful for the abuse, and his lover Nasha is so domineering that it makes you wonder why he's in love with her. They do slip in some touching moments between the two that show how protective and caring she is, but most of the time it feels more like she thinks of him as a pet or some kind of property. That's not a slam on Naomi Ackie's performance because she's great, and it does add weight to Mickey's submissive role in life, but it felt weirdly structured. And internal logic is another place where the movie needed more work. I know the whole premise is a guy dying and being rebuilt all the time, but the rules they put in place are rarely followed. Everyone keeps asking Mickey what it feels like to die, but I had to ask how the heck he'd even know. They clearly say that his personality and memories are saved before each mission, so he doesn't have memory gaps, but he has to be physically hooked up to it, right? So wouldn't he lose the memories from his missions outside the lab? It might be nitpicking, but stuff like that really drives me up the wall. You can't set a rule and then ignore it for the sake of premise. You have to work the rule into the premise and stick to it. Or you're just saying the rules in the story don't matter, so look at the pretty lights. And I know the original book Mickey 7 was well received, so maybe it's better explained there. But as I've said before, there shouldn't have to be homework to follow and believe in a film's story. Reading the source material can help deepen an appreciation for the film, but it shouldn't be required to make the movie make sense. And the film we got, it's fine. Okay directing, a shaky script, a lead who nails it, and a secondary player who falls on his stupid face. And a mixed bag of childish humor and serious themes that never gels correctly. Look, either go whole hog weird like a Gilliam flick or, like a darker humor type film, or get really serious about it. Because blending those tones is extremely difficult, and this just barely passes the muster on that level. I enjoyed it for what it was, and I'm glad I saw it, because we definitely need to support more original ideas in film, but this ain't one for the history books. A step in the right direction, just fumbles a bit. Maybe wait to see it on streaming, but like I said, we should really be supporting more original ideas in film, so if you're at all interested, go take a look. It is pretty decent. But that's it for now from me. If you want to see any more reviews like this, click like, subscribe, and until next time, happy viewing!